Welcome, if you are joining us today on YouTube. So excited to have you here. We're really excited to be making this craft with you. On screen now, you'll see some things that you'll need, and really all that you'll need is a square piece of paper. If you have an A4 sheet like this, all you need to do is just fold your corner over so that you have a nice diagonal line, and then rip off the rectangle on the other side to make a square piece of paper. Some of you received boxes from the CU with lots of gifts in it, and you might have been wondering what those random coloured bits of paper are for. Well, today is what they're for, so do go and grab those. All you will need is a square piece of paper, and that's it. I'm going to be using some of this. This is just square paper that's got some pretty designs on it. You can get these from the works if you were interested. That's where these birds have all come from. So I'm going to be using another one of these and creating the birds. So we'll start making our paper cranes at about 22. So you've still got some time to sort out your bits of paper. Maybe you want to go on the hunt for some nice pretty paper, or maybe think of a colour theme. Like these are more watercolours. Maybe you want to do black and white. Maybe you want to do a rainbow. Totally up to you. Make it creative. But we'd love to see if you're joining us today. Do tag us on Instagram at Brunel CU. We would love to see you making your creations with us, so make sure you tag us. For now, get yourself a cup of tea, get comfy, get your pieces of paper ready, and we'll start making our paper cranes in about 4 to 5 minutes. Just to let you know as well that there will be a testimony, which is a story of someone's faith, given about halfway through. So we'll make our paper cranes, hear a bit of Nicola's story, and then I'm going to teach you how to make this garland. So if you want to be making the garland as well, those are some of the things you'll need. Tweezers are to get the string through the holes. You could use a needle, or I was using a mechanical pencil earlier because the end is really sharp. So you can grab one of those. And then some blue tack is just to weigh down the end. I can't see it because it's off screen at the moment, but the blue tack is just to weigh down the end. So it can be white tack, blue tack, or if you've got a large, fairly heavy bead, that will also do the trick. So grab your tools, grab your supplies, get comfy. We'll start making things shortly, and look forward to hearing a bit of Nicola's testimony. That's all right. It did that last time. It's not.
Yeah.
Can the live stream still hear me? Great.
They can hear us. Then can we just?
So
can we just?
Those who are. Sorry, I was just going to say to people who are watching the live stream, we do have a Zoom room open. You'll have just heard some lovely chitter chatter from some of our members. If you would like to join us, just message us on the Brunel Instagram page. We would love to see you, invite you into our community. We're a super friendly bunch, I promise. So if you would like to join us, you're more than welcome to. Like I said, just message us on Instagram and we can send you the Zoom details if you would like to join us. Okay, so we'll get started shortly. It's about 22, so we'll crack on. If you are just joining us, if you're on Zoom with us, or if you're on YouTube, do make sure you've got a square piece of paper. It has to be square, can't be A4. So if you've got a piece of A4 paper, you can very easily create a square piece of paper. All you need to do is fold down one corner just down to the bottom, and then rip off the rectangle that forms on the other side. Unfold it, and then you've got a square piece of paper. So that's all you will need. I will be showing you how to make this garland later, which is very, very cute. You can just hang it down. If you want to do that, these are the extra things that you'll need. You can have string, and it needs to be string because it needs to be thick enough so that the birds don't keep sliding down. So make sure you've got some string. Tweezers are to pull the string through the paper. So you might want to use, I've just got some tweezers here, or you might want to use a mechanical pencil, something that you can hook the string onto and pull it through the birds so it comes out of the other side. And then finally, you might need some blue tack or a heavy large bead to go at the bottom. This just helps weigh down the bottom so that the bird on the bottom isn't floating around. So that's all you will need. So without further ado, we're going to crack on. If you missed it earlier, we're going to be teaching you how to make paper cranes, and then we're also going to hear a testimony, which is a story about someone's faith, a little bit later on. Nicola, who is part of Brunel CU, will be sharing with us, so do make sure you stay on for that. I've heard some of her answers already, and it's really, really encouraging, so do stick around for that. But for now, let's learn how to make some paper cranes. So I'm using some pastel watercolor paper. You can buy these in packs from the works. They're super cheap if you're interested. They're only about £1, and I'm sure you can get them on Amazon whilst we're in lockdown. So that's what I'll be using today. So I'll be stringing on the bird that I make here onto the garland that I've just shown you. So grab your piece of paper. If you've got pattern paper, or even if you've got coloured paper that doesn't have colour on the back, you want your coloured side to be up like this. Make sure that your coloured side or pattern side is facing upwards. If it's the same on both sides, it doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that the pattern is on the outside because that's the side that you'll see of the bird. So to get started, all you're going to do is take your piece of paper and fold it in half, like so. Make sure you're matching up your corners. And then just fold it down so you have a triangle. Again, make sure that your pattern is on this side. So that's what you need to do for your first step. Just fold it in half, got a triangle. Then you're going to fold it in half again. So the folded half is on the bottom. Just fold it in half to make another triangle. So make sure that you're pressing down on all your edges. Make sure you're lining up nicely. It'll just make it easier and a bit crisper. So we've got our little triangle here. What you're going to do, this bit is a little bit tricky, so I'm just going to talk you through it. Hold out this side, and we're going to make a square. So this point up here is going to fold down to this point here. So you want to open this section up. You might want to hold down this side just to stop it from going all over the place. You're just going to push this side down to that other edge, down to the top of that triangle. Make sure it's nice and lined up. And then just press it down and make sure those creases are all pressed down nicely. So that's what it should look like. So that's, you're just folding your triangle up like that along that crease, pushing it down so that this corner meets the top of that triangle, and then just flattening it down. If I'm going too fast, let me know in the comments, either on Zoom or on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, If someone in the Zoom call can just let me know if I'm going too fast, that'd be great. So you're going to do the same to this side. So once you're at this stage, just flip it all over so that the square is at the back. You're going to do basically the same thing that you've just done, but to make it slightly easier, you just want to bend this triangle just over to make sure that this crease is here. So you're just going to fold that triangle back over that side. So you see you've got this nice crease going down the middle. That just makes it easier for making that square. So just folded that crease over, bring it back up, and then you're just going to do exactly the same thing that you did with that side. This corner at the top is going to come down to the top of that triangle. So just open it up like that, press it down, bring that corner to corner at the top. So it's nice and straight, and then just press those sides down. There you go. So you've got these an open bit at the top and where it's all joined at the top here. You want this joined bit to be facing the top when you're holding it. So make sure this joined section at the top is facing the top like this. So you should have a few layers poking out at the bottom here. So for this next step, all you're going to do is fold these corners in just on this side. Fold these corners in to the middle. So that will look a little bit like this. You want this line here to become parallel with this middle line. So you're just going to fold that over into the middle, like you're making a kite, essentially, a kite shape. Fold those in. Make sure that those creases are nice and pressed down. Should look a bit like that. Then you're going to fold this side over again. Make sure it's all nice and lined up. And it should look a bit like that. So all you've done is from this shape here, you've just folded those bits across to make this kite shape. Just make sure that these two bits are lined up at the top as well. And then you're going to flip it over and do exactly the same thing. So just bring in those side bits in to make a kite shape. And it should line up with the bit underneath as well. So that's a good guide for you. Folding those creases down, make sure they're nice and sharp. That will just make it easier with all the other folds that we're going to make. Fold that side over. And you've got this kite shape. So it should look a little bit like this. You've got a kite on both sides. All you've done is gone from this square shape that we made in the first couple of steps, folded these sides in, turned it over, and folded these sides in. So you should have this little kite shape there. The next thing is that you're just going to bend this little triangle over on itself and then bend it back again. This is just to create a crease along this bit that will help you with the next couple of steps. So just fold it over, flip it back up, and then fold it back on itself. So it looks, and then just bring it back to the top. So you don't need to do anything with it. It's just creating a crease here, which will make the next couple of steps a bit easier for you. So we've got this shape. You want it pointing up like this. You're actually going to fold out these sides. So it'll look a bit like this. Now we made that crease there because we're going to use this as kind of like a lever, because what we're going to do in this step is take this section up. So it's like a little flap at the bottom. And it's going to come in like this. So the side flaps are going to come in like that. I'll show you how they do. So you're just going to make sure that this is like a lever. So it's kind of, turn it on that side. So it's coming in up here. So it's not going like this, because otherwise you'll struggle to bend it in. You want to be using this little line, this crease here, for it to bend over like that. Can you see that? So you've gone from the square, got the square here, you've unfolded these flaps to make it back into a square. Make sure that this crease has been made as well. Take it from the bottom. I want to hold this down, like hold the bits underneath, just to stop it from going everywhere. Then you're going to make sure that this crease here is levering this bit up. So you might want to put your finger on here and then use your thumb just to bring that all the way back like this. So just from the side so you can see that. So you can see the bits underneath here, just holding my finger there, holding my finger there, and then bringing it back. So it's going to look a little bit like that. Hopefully you're all at that stage. It's a bit of a tricky one. It took me a couple of attempts to try and do that properly. So when you are at this stage, you're going to keep folding it back, and then these side bits are going to come in. You basically just want to keep pulling, and then you're just going to press them down. So you've now got a diamond shape. Make sure that's nice and flat. So you've just gone from pulling this from the square, pulling the side up, bring in those flaps and they'll come in by themselves. And then you're just pressing it down, folding those creases, making sure it's nice and flat. And you should have this diamond shape. And you're going to do exactly the same on the back. So you're going to unfold these two bits, unfold the kite. So it's like the square that we originally had. Make sure that this crease here is helping us bend this bit back. And then pulling it back, letting those side bits come in. So it comes like this. And then you might need on this side just to help it a bit and pull those bits in. And then flatten all those creases. Hopefully everyone has something that looks a little bit like this. So it's kind of looking like a diamond. You've got the point in the middle and these two bits. So you still want it facing that way. You want this point facing upwards when you have it down like this. So the next bit is folding in those sides again, a bit like we did for the kite. So you're just going to fold in these side bits. Fold that side in. Make sure it's nice and tight. A top tip for this bit, make sure that the bits that you fold over don't go over this side or don't go over this line down the middle. Otherwise it will make the next step a bit difficult. And you'll see why in a second. So make sure that you've folded those sides over. Make sure they're not crossing each other or crossing the line, that they're just a bit like that. And then you're going to do exactly the same on the other side. Folding those sides in. You'll be able to use the one that you've just done on the other side as kind of a guide, so you can see that they're lined up here with the one on the back. Hold it again on the other side. Make sure they're all nice and flat. Really push down on those creases. And then you'll have something that looks a little bit like this. So you've gone from this diamond shape, just pushing those sides in, making sure that they're parallel, but not going over this center line, and doing exactly the same on the other side. The reason why I say don't cross these two bits together or make it go over the center line is because you're now going to fold these in on itself. This is what it looks like from the top. So you've got these top bits, you can see we've got those side bits here. It's basically going to kind of invert on itself, I guess. So they're going to fold in like that. Might want to do it one at a time if you're struggling to do it both together. So these flaps are just going to come in like that. Pinch them together. You might want to hold them to keep them secure, and then you're going to do exactly the same on this side where you've just made those flaps. Bring those in together, and then you'll have this on the side. Just do that again. So you've made these flaps, you've pulled these bits in, you're just going to fold them on themselves, pinch that. You're going to do the same on this side. So you'll have something that looks a little bit like this. Then you just want to make sure, again, that this is nice and flat. These two bits will need particularly pushing down and making sure those creases are nice and secure. You might be able to kind of see where this is going. We're getting close to the end now, so you can kind of see that these two bits will eventually be the wings. So all you're going to do is you've got these two flaps at the bottom now. So you want to be drawing those up, and you can see where that crease that we made earlier with that little triangle at the top is going to help us with folding these up, because they are joined at the bottom. So you don't want to try and force it to go any higher than this. So you're going to fold that end up and do exactly the same on the other side. Just fold it up using that crease that we made earlier as a guideline. Just because you're able to see that this little centre bit is where all the paper is kind of joined together. So you don't want to be forcing it too much, otherwise you'll end up ripping it. So you're just bringing those side bits up from this shape. There we go. And you can see that we're very, very close to making a little paper crane. Very exciting. So all you're going to do is, we know that these bits are going to be the wings. They'll need to be pulled out, but don't do it like this because it will kind of go askew. You can see it doesn't quite do what you want it to do. So I put your fingers in between those wings, and then very gently just going to prise it open, and you'll see in the middle that this kind of square box sort of appears. Might need a little bit of help pulling it out, but eventually this little square appears in the middle. So feel free to apply a little bit of pressure, but you don't want to just be yanking it out, otherwise you'll rip this box in the middle, because that's just a very thin bit in the middle. But pulling that out, so you've got your bird. Now you just need to do the final little flourishes. So we're just going to bend these wings down, bring this tip into where this little bit is in the corner, just because then they'll both be equal on either side. And then just pop that back out again. There's one wing. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Just bring that wing down into the corner, hold along, bring it back out again. 2 wings. I'm going to use this side as the head, just because this side is a little bit further down. If you can't see that already. So I'm just going to bend right at the top for its head. Okay. And then you might want to just make your tail a bit more defined. This one's not too bad, but it might be a bit flat, so you just want to fold along that crease there. Pop it back up again. And there you are. That's your little paper crane. Hopefully that wasn't too quick for you. Should look a little bit like this. I can see on the Zoom call that some people are laughing, which probably means that they have not got to this stage, but that's okay. I learnt how to do this just over Christmas, and it's taken me a few goes to get it right and to learn it from heart. So practice makes perfect for those who are laughing on the Zoom. But hopefully if you're watching along with us later, or even if you're watching along with us now, you'll have something that looks a little bit like that. With a bit of practice, you could be doing those in one go. So there you go. We're going to hear a testimony now from Nicola, after which we will learn how to put all of these birds together that we make into like a nice pretty garland. But for now, if whoever is hosting the Zoom call, if you could just spotlight myself and Nicola, that would be really helpful. We're just going to hear from Nicola. Nicola is part of the CU. I've not prepped her for this first question, but Nicola, I would love to hear a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you study? Where are you currently living as we're in lockdown? Would love to know a bit about you first.
Yeah, so my name's Nicola. I'm 18. I study biomedicine at Brunel. I'm currently living at home with my parents in good old Slough.
Nice.
Yeah, I joined in September, so I'm first year. Yeah, anything else you want to know?
Great. I'm going to again put you on the spot and just give you like one fun question. What is very simple? What is your favourite chocolate bar? I know that I've consumed a lot of chocolate in lockdown, particularly Galaxy. I love a Galaxy bar. You can't go wrong with it. What would be your choice of chocolate, Nicola?
Um, I am a dairy milk over Galaxy girl.
Oh, okay.
But I really like the dairy milk crunchy that you can get, where it's got the like crunchy orangey bits in them. That is like my absolute. It's quite hard to find actually, which is why I haven't been able to nom on it that much. But when I do see it, it's the first one I buy.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
Galaxy
it'd just be
cookie
plain dairy
crumble.
milk.
That is, yeah. And I could talk about chocolate for ages, but I won't. Thank you so much for giving your time today, Nicola. For those watching, we're just going to ask Nicola a few questions about her faith. As a Christian union, we want to give people the opportunity to hear and respond to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we think it's really important and a great way to share the story of Christ by real life stories with some of our CU people. So Nicola has wonderfully volunteered to do that today. So I've got some questions for you, Nicola. Would love to hear your response to some of these. So my first question, it's pretty simple. What was your first encounter with Christianity?
So I've grown up in more of like a Catholic background because my whole mum's side of my family is Catholic. So growing up, there was that tiny bit of religious element, but they're not practicing Catholics. I was sort of just forced to go to a Catholic primary school, forced to go to church on Sunday because it made my nan happy. But I never really knew why I was a Catholic, so it never really stuck. And I didn't really learn about the religion itself. I do like RE lessons at Catholic school, but it never really stuck. So I knew there was a God, but I wouldn't call that my first encounter because I didn't really get to know anything about the actual religion. And then in year 10, so I was about 14, 15, I met my boyfriend Tristan, and he and his family are practicing evangelists. So I went to his house for dinner one night, and we like prayed before dinner. They read a Bible story for his little siblings, and we just did a bit of a Bible study. And they talked to me about what church they go to, and I think that was probably my first encounter with like what it's actually like to be a practicing Christian. So I wouldn't call the religious background that I grew up with a religious background because it wasn't really practicing anything. It was just my first encounter was probably when I was about 14 with my boyfriend's family.
Great. Thanks for sharing. I forgot to say before asking questions, if you would like to ask Nicola or the CU any questions, would love to hear them. Do pop them if you're on Zoom in the Zoom call, or if you're on YouTube, pop them in the YouTube chat. We will try our best to answer them now, but also we might respond to you through our Brunel Instagram page. So do send us any questions that you have. My next question for you, Nicola, is what has been happening in the past few years to bring you to this point where you are today?
As I said, like I'm 18 now. So I first started really getting to know Christianity when I was about 14, 15. So I've been exploring the religion for about 3 years now. And like after 3 years, I can actually say I am a Christian, I am saved. And it took me, I don't know if 3 years is considered a long time, but for me, it took quite a while to get very confident in my religion and to actually say that I am a Christian. Like that was quite a big thing for me. And like it was a lot of going to church with my boyfriend's family, getting to know scripture, and also just personal experiences. So I had a few problems with family when I was a bit younger, even before I started exploring the religion. And looking back on those while I was learning about scripture really helped me to understand what I was going through and why I went through what I went through. And it was like those personal experiences that have definitely helped me a lot to get to know Jesus personally and how he's helped me personally, and knowing that he'll be there for me. So things like trials throughout my time as a Christian have really helped me get to where I am today. And my church helping me as well. I've done loads of like Christianity Explored 16 plus classes at church. And learning scripture really helped me become more confident as a Christian. It's quite daunting when you go to a church and like everyone knows everything about the Bible, and I'm here like I'm learning to really get stuck in, and that definitely helped me a lot. And like CU for me as well, really, I only joined in September, but I can already see such a huge difference in how confident I am with my religion. Like, I don't think without CU I would even be doing this now, being able to actually talk about my testimony. And that's really helped me. So CU has been incredible in only like the few months that I've been here. And yeah, I think that's what's really helped me get to where I am now. My journey's only been 3 years, and it's been incredible to see how much I've changed, like through my trials and getting to know Jesus personally. So yeah, I think that's what's got me to where I am now.
Yeah. That's really great. Thanks for sharing that, Nicola. It's really great to hear how you've really just found that personal connection with Jesus, and through church and CU and just reading the scripture. Like, I've got to give it to you, like going to a church where you just like you feel like you're learning, you feel like you don't know as much as everyone else. Like that's really courageous of you, and you can really see God working through you and drawing you to him through that. It's really cool. My final question is, obviously this is an event for everyone, and hopefully we've got some non-Christians joining us today who are hearing your story. What would you say to anyone who's not a Christian today listening into your story?
So when I first started, so obviously I've sort of always known a God was there throughout my entire life, but never really studied the Bible. And so one thing that I was told when I was reading it was to be open-minded with a lot of what you read about in scripture, because a lot of it can be, especially miracles that you read about, they just don't seem very believable if you're not open-minded. If you're not open-minded to the fact that Jesus has these abilities that we do not have, and that is why they seem very mind-blowing. To be open-minded about those things, to understand it before you shut it down, is, especially in today's society now, where you get a lot of people saying, oh, how can you believe in the Bible? How can you believe these things actually happened when you weren't there? To be open-minded for me was very important. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be where I am now, believing in what I believe. But sort of linking into that, you need to read the scripture. And one thing that I started with at my church, and what they started me on, was just reading the Gospels, which was obviously Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And these are just really nice, easy to understand accounts of what Jesus did on earth. And it helps you get to know what he's like. And I think that really helped me just get to know him a bit more through scripture. But something I was also told about the Gospels, to linking to what I said about open-mindedness, the Gospels are very good uses of like evidence for the truth of the Bible. So I remember hearing a metaphor where someone said it's like a police investigation. So when police are trying to investigate something, they'll get different accounts from many witnesses and sort of collectively read those and see if they all have the same gist of what happened, just from different perspectives, because everyone will have a different perspective. And that's basically what the Gospels do. So it's 4 different perspectives from 4 different men, about the same events that happen through time. And when you read them, they're all the same gist, but there's slight little differences every now and then, and that's due to perspective. And that's very important for evidence-wise, if that is what you focus on and are worried about. So that's something that really helped me really start to understand the Bible. And it was a metaphor that stuck in my head for 3 years, and it's not left my mind. And then I'd probably also say, like, take your time. Like, it's a journey. I'm sure you probably hear a lot that it's called a journey when you're trying to get to know Christ. It is a journey. Some people take less time. So if you're brought up maybe in a Christian background, you might not take as much time because you've got those influences around you. But for me, I was not brought up in that way. So it's taken me 3 years, maybe even a bit longer. I'm still on my journey, still getting to know him now. So I definitely say just take your time, give yourself time to understand the scripture, let Jesus do his work in you, and he will definitely do it. If you call to him, he will come to you, and you just got to give yourself that time to get through it. And then last thing I'd probably say is, when you're comfortable enough, I would definitely pray. In just, a lot of people have described it to me as having a conversation with him like you would a friend. Like, someone said to me that you need to treat him like you're confident. You can confide in him and really build that personal relationship with him. So you'll read scripture, that's important to get to know him that way, but you should also pray when you're comfortable to, in your own time. Get to know him personally as someone you can confide in, and he will help you in that way. Who you can call to him for help, but you can also, just if you want to just talk to someone, he will be there for you. And that's something that really helped me when I was going through those trials I was telling you about. When I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone, I would talk to him in my own time, and it really made a difference. I could tell he was working in me, and it's incredible. It's a very incredible, mind-blowing feeling. But even now, praying for me is still something I'm getting used to. So when I say, like, make sure you're comfortable to do it, it's very important to do those kind of things. And yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Nicola. We are going to carry on with the craft, but obviously we've just had some really profound things from Nicola, some really interesting points that I think it's important for all of us to consider. If you have any questions for Nicola, do pop them in the chat, or message us on Instagram. We would love to get in touch with you and answer your questions. If you have more questions, I would love to invite you to an event, the final event of our Living Our Best Life weeks. That's on Friday. We're going to have something called Ask a Pastor. This is a chance for you to ask questions anonymously to local church leaders, and it can be on anything to do with Christianity. This is a great opportunity to have your questions answered. We would love for you to go away from this week having all of those questions answered. We don't want you to leave with unanswered ones. So make the most of that event. All the details will be on our Instagram account, so do check those out. If you know someone from the CU, why not ask them about it, and I'm sure they'll get the details to you. But for now, thank you so much, Nicola. Really, really appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you for letting me share my story.
It was a pleasure and an honour. It's so good. I'm going to finish up the craft and show you how to make a garland out of your paper cranes. And then after that, we will draw the event to a close, and I'll remind you of the other things that are going on. So for now, grab your paper cranes. If Zoom hosts can just spotlight my hands again, and that would be great. So if you joined us near the beginning, you will have seen something that looks a little bit like this. This is something I made earlier this morning. It's just a little garland of all of these paper cranes that you can hang somewhere. I think I'm going to hang mine off the handles of my wardrobe. But I just wanted to show you how I've achieved this and how these cranes are all hanging together. So if you want to follow along with this and you saw the instructions on the welcome screen earlier, do grab your string if you have some. It'll also probably be helpful to have some tweezers of some description, or if not tweezers, well, you'll probably need this anyway, a very pointy pencil or something like that. So I'm just going to show you very quickly. I'm going to add this one on that I made earlier to this garland. So let me just get this garland back again. I've made it into a mess. So I've left a bit of string at the bottom of this garland to add another bird onto. The first thing you're going to want to do when starting your garland is just tie a knot to wherever. So if you're just starting yours off, you'll have a bit of string at the end like this. You'll want a knot like this. This is just a double knot. And you want to do that before you do anything else. So obviously I've got some birds on here already, so I'm just going to tie this roughly the same distance that I've done the other knots. I'm going to do just a regular knot, and then I'm going to do another knot on top of that. Looks a little something like that. And then you're going to need to take your crane. Now, very helpfully, the creases that we've made earlier have made the center point for your crane really obvious. You can't really see it on my camera, but there is kind of a center point where all of the creases come together. You're going to want to just poke a hole, not too big, through there. Should go through fairly easy because it should only just be one piece of paper on that bit there. Make it fairly substantial, so you might want to just keep poking that pen or pencil through. So you've got a hole that looks a little bit like that. Now you can see, sort of, there it is. There's already a pre-made hole on the other side, and that's where all of these joins are on the bottom. You can either use your pencil to go through this hole, or an easier thing might just be to pull the opposite sides, and it will just make that hole just a little bit bigger. Don't force it too much, otherwise you'll end up ripping it too much. And then I'm just going to reinforce that hole by poking that through. Now, make sure that you are going from taking the string from the bottom first, and then it's going to come out of the top. So to do this, I am going to use tweezers to do this. Now, you could use a needle, you could use, I don't know what else you could use. You could probably try and do it with your pencil, so you like hook the string through and pull it through. You're just going to want to fold over the end where the string is. So you've got a little bit like this. Just makes it easier to push through the hole if it's a bit thicker. I'm just going to go through the bottom bit. I'm going to use tweezers to push this in. Don't worry too much if that hole gets a little bit bigger. It won't be too noticeable once we're done. Then you're going to go through this top one using the tweezers. Just put them in the hole. Don't open them too much because that will stretch this hole at the top. Just going to grab onto the string that's in there already and pull it back out. Keep pulling it through. Make sure you get that little bit of string through. It's actually the end of your string. I've got a little bit tied up. There we go. And then it should, you can see that it's already doing it, it should sit on the bottom of where that knot we made earlier is, so that it won't go down, it'll stay where it is. And then you can make as many birds as you want, make it as long as possible, so you have this lovely little garland that all the birds will just sit on top of those knots that you've made. Earlier I said about using blue tack or a heavy string. I've just done that here. That's just to make sure that this one, if you don't have it, it will just kind of float around and be a bit all over the place. But with that bead at the bottom, it just makes it really straight. You won't be able to see it, but it will hang down a bit like that. And that's all there is to it. That's how you make a lovely paper crane garland. Feel free to go back and watch the tutorial again, so that you know how to make lots of these, and then you can make your own paper crane. That's all from me. Just a final thank you from me to Nicola for sharing her story. That was so great to hear how God has been really drawing her to him, and how she's been seeking him. We would love for you guys listening now, or even if you're watching this back, to consider Christianity for yourself. Nicola made some really great points about reading the Gospels, reading about Jesus for yourself. He makes some pretty big claims about himself and who he is. Why not look into those for yourself and decide whether they are true or false? We would love for you to do that. If you are new to the CU, if you don't know anyone from the CU, we would love to give you the opportunity to read through the Bible, or to read through some of those accounts that Nicola was talking about earlier. There will be a feedback form somewhere in the YouTube chat, in the description, or you can just message us on Instagram. We would love to read something called Uncover with you. Uncover is a super simple way of opening up one of those biblical accounts of Jesus' life and asking some questions about what you're reading. It's a great way to understand more about who Jesus is and what he claims. So if you would like to read one of those, we can either send one to you, or we'd love to read along with you. They're great to do in pairs or as a group and get to understand Jesus together. So do get in contact if that's something you'd be interested in. Like I said earlier, we've also got the Ask a Pastor event happening on Friday evening. That will be on Zoom. So do message us for those Zoom details. It's an opportunity to anonymously ask any questions you have about Christianity to a panel of local church leaders. So that's a really great opportunity. Do make the most of that. And we've had loads of other events happening recently, as well as short 5-minute talks on big questions. Do check out our YouTube channel for all of that content, and also our Instagram for the 5-minute quick talks on big questions about Christianity. But that's all from me. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or you're watching this back. Really, really appreciate it. Would love to hear from you. Do fill out that feedback form and send us any questions you have at Brunel CU on Instagram, whether you want to ask Nicola something or you want to ask us as a CU something. But for now, we will hopefully see you at some other events, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.